Welcome to Everything Co-op, bringing you information on how cooperatives can help improve your quality of life. This show is being sponsored by the National Co-op Bank, NCB. The NCB is dedicated to strengthening communities nationwide for the delivery of banking and financial services for the nation's cooperatives, their members, and other socially responsible organizations. For more information on the power of community ownership, visit ncb.coop. That's ncb.coop. Now stay tuned for your host, Vernon Oakes.
Good morning, everyone. This is Vernon Oakes. The program is Everything Cooperative. And this morning, we have the pleasure of having Mark Goehring and Alejandra Chavez on with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Vernon.
Mark, where are you at now?
I am in Tucson, Arizona.
And Alejandra?
I'm in Durango, Colorado.
Where's Durango? All I know is Denver in Colorado. Where's Durango?
It's south of Colorado, right?
South of Denver? Okay.
Yeah, south of the border, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that you are on this morning, and we're going to talk about two companies. One is Columinate, and the other one is Common Good. But before we do that, Mark, how did you get involved in this whole co-op world?
Well, let's see. I grew up here in Tucson and shopped at the local food co-op here. And then eventually got around to moving to a lovely town in New England, Brattleboro, Vermont. And while I was in Brattleboro, I worked at a Montessori school, and one day someone called and said, "Mark, would you want to be on the board of the Brattleboro Food Co-op?" That was in 1997. It sounds like a really long time ago now. Mm-hmm. But I served on the board there for about 7 years, and that was my first experience in governance and also being in a role in a co-op other than just being a shopper or a user of a co-op. And I ended up, we had term limits, so I had to get off the board in 04-05, and our board had been getting support from a consulting group that I'm now a part of, and I thought, what would it be like to keep doing this governance work, in that capacity? And so I asked about that and ended up getting involved in our consulting group in 04 and 05.
So why do you think somebody would call you and ask you if you would like to be on the board? What kind of skill sets do you think you had, or they thought you had?
I don't know, Vernon. Just go figure, That's a good question. But for me, I'd been kind of a lifelong entrepreneur, and then when I was working at the school, it kind of felt a little bit like early retirement, even though it was very exciting and amazing work to kind of be channeling Maria Montessori and helping people reach their full potential, which is the culture of the school.
Okay. So Alejandra, how did you get involved in this whole co-op world?
Well, I used to live in West Side for 18 years.
What's West Side?
It's a mobile home park. It's a 62 units mobile home park. And so our park became for sale in 2021, and I was one of the main person of organizing our community to see what we could do if we as a community we could. We wanted to fight for a park to see if we could buy it as a, own resident. But so I started, organizing, and I met some of the co-op board members for Animas View Mobile Home Park. And Dan Hunt introduced me to Kelly and to Mark. And so I wasn't sure I was able to do this job. I mean, I had management experience before, but not as a property manager. So I was very scared of doing this. But, I got very, I put on myself, like, I know I can do this. I know I will do it. And I'm here. A year later, I'm here. And so I'm very happy to get to know Common Good, very supportive, management group.
So Alejandra, you said you've been living in West Side for 18 years in a mobile
Yes,
home
I-
park in Durango, Colorado.
Correct.
Okay, and then the mobile home park came up for sale.
Correct. In 2000.
So Alejandra, you were living in West Side Park, in the mobile home park, and you were living there for 18 years. So Alejandra, for 18 years you were living there. So when they came up for sale, you just took out the checkbook and bought it? That's how you were able to buy the mobile home park?
No, I mean we wanted to find resources as a rock, the Rock USA, who helped residents to buy the park, as a resident-owned park, but we weren't able to do it. So we found a nonprofit organization who helped us buy the park. But in the meanwhile, we did fundraising. We were selling tacos on Sundays, so it was really fun.
What were you
It
selling?
wasn't tacos,
Tacos.
pozole, yes, all
Okay.
kind of Mexican food. And believe me, I'm thinking of food industry. It's a good industry here in Durango. So I'm just, if I ever leave Common Good, I think I'm going to go for food industry.
Okay. And Alejandra, where were you? You mentioned Mexico. Where were you living before West Side Park?
Yes, so I came here when I was 12 years old. I moved from Mexico, Chiapas, South of Mexico, the border with the South America.
Okay.
And so, yes, I came here. I came here when I was 12 years old. I left my town, my family, but I'm happy to be here with my mom and dad and sisters.
Thank you. Okay. Mark, you interviewed Alejandra. What about, and when you interviewed her, what caused her to stand out?
Oh my gosh. Well, Alejandra is just such a rock star. Like she said, that having management experience, was in her past, but really it's for us in Common Good, what's most important is to have an orientation to service, to be wanting, as part of your core being, to be helpful to others, and that is really a standout quality for Alejandra. So Alejandra came in as a great example of what we're looking to do with the Common Good Management Services project, of having people who have those great characteristics, who never thought of themselves as property managers per se, but the point is, how do you look out for the well-being of residents while also taking care of all of the administrative duties that go into being accountable to the owner group for running a successful property.
And that was a
Good
year.
job, Alejandra. Yeah, a year ago, man. Time flies, right?
Okay. So, Mark, you've been in Columinate how long now?
Well, let's see. I got involved in 2004, 2005, and my first role was as a governance consultant. So I've done a lot of work with boards of directors, and also include in that board management relationship. And so long history there. And as part of my work, I was very involved in the creation and growth of one of Columinate's very successful governance support programs called CBLD. CBLD, it stands for Cooperative Board Leadership Development. In that program, we asked the question, what would it look like if boards had ongoing support built right into the system? Would they be able to be a more effective board?
Okay. So CBuild, what part of the co-op world have you mainly done consulting work for with CBuild?
We have a handful of other types of organizations, land trusts, charter school, but our big experience there has been in consumer food co-ops.
Consumer food co-ops. So I get consumer food co-ops or any co-op that is owned and operated by the people that uses the products or services.
That's right.
So that could be credit union, food co-ops, housing co-ops, rural electric co-ops. Those are all consumer co-ops. So are you doing the C-bill for all of them?
We certainly see that what we've created in C-bill transfers out to those other sectors and have some experience. It hasn't been our historically not where most of our work is, but definitely the expertise and practices that we've developed over the decades is very transferable.
Okay, so we're getting ready to take our first break, and we've got a sense of who Mark Goehring is as the manager of Columinate, and how Alejandra Chavez is as a community service representative for Common Good. When we come back, we're going to talk more about Columinate and the kinds of work it does for those consumer co-ops that Mark was just talking about. We'll be right back. Please don't touch that dial.
This is WOL News Talk 1450 AM and 95.9 FM 959.
This is Vernon Oakes, and the program is Everything Cooperative. We have Mr. Mark Goehring and Alejandra Chavez on with us today. So Columinate, Mark, can you tell us again what Columinate is and what it does?
Sure. Yeah, happy to. So we're a national, cooperatively owned and operated consulting and management service group. Our roots go back to the early 1990s, and we grew up with the natural foods industry. So when there was a trend for co-ops to successfully provide their communities with natural and organic food, our early members and consultants were the advisors to help them run those co-ops successfully. And one of the things I'm most proud of about our organization is that we've continued to evolve our support for the community grocery store, whether it's a food co-op or a small independent that is intent on providing, good, healthy food for their community. We've been providing those services for more than 3 decades now. So I think that's something of note. Our group has evolved and diversified. In 2018, we really intentionally said, well, how do we keep doing that good work that we're doing in grocery retail and food co-ops and broaden our market and diversify who we are as a group and the kind of work that we're doing. And so that's when we did a rebrand and came up with Columinate, which means light the path forward together. And tagline is Catalyst for Common Good. And the glue that holds our group together is really how do we get up every day and help a community be more successful in their efforts in promoting well-being for their individuals and community. So we have lots more going on than work in food co-ops now, and that's Alejandra's on the call with us today as a representative from our Common Good Management Services project, which we we got involved in that in 2019 and got our first customers in 2021, and we're providing community-focused property management to mobile home parks that have been extracted out of the investor-owned marketplace. And I think it's a great project and a great example of our intentionality of evolving our co-op in terms of who we are and what we're doing. So I'm the manager, and it's just I'm grateful to have the opportunity to serve our people. We have about 65 consultants and staff now in Columinate and Common Good, and just doing amazing work in many different ways.
So I'd like for you to go back to catalyst for common good. What is I got a catalyst is something that from my science days, chemistry, I believe, it causes some reactions, it causes some results, but it doesn't change. So what do you mean by a catalyst for common good?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something that we talk about internally in our group because, common good is such a broad and powerful idea. But, it boils down to, I think, community well-being, focusing on how is community an essential element in being people. And, one of the, we were talking before the show about showing up and having respect and dignity for each person that we, have relationships with. I think that a lot of our work in Columinate comes down to that, like how do we really show up and help people run successful co-ops or community organizations and successful businesses that are focused on the well-being of community and the people in the community, right? And that can look very different. It could be a feasibility study or training people how to do a certain technical job better, or how to be a better board member or a better board leader, or how to facilitate a conversation. I mean, it takes many shapes, but kind of the underlying foundation is that with that help, a person or a group can serve their communities better, be more effective in how they're showing up under the banner of a common good.
So, Mark, as you described the catalyst for common good, it was more outward from Columinate. How do you help communities that the consultants are working with
Right.
make sure that the people in those communities are respected and that are shown where they can have dignity? Okay. What about the folks inside of Columinate? Do you also show respect and dignity to the staff and the consultants inside Columinate?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's a exciting piece about our organization is that we really have a strong culture of mutual support, right? And so it's not coming. I think the kind of the ethos of our organization isn't coming from me as manager or one, it's not coming like from headquarters. It's something that we all share. So we have a community of 65 and growing, and what people part of what floats everybody's boat is being helpful to others in the community, because that have such a it helps everybody. Then there's a self-interest and a mutual interest that manifests that way.
So you said something about the glue that holds the folks together in Columinate. My being a person that for the most part looked from the outside into Columinate, I found the glue was just that you show respect and dignity for each of the people that work there. That's one of the things that I found exciting about, and that goes along with the principles of cooperation. You all seem to live the principles and the values of co-op.
Yeah. And if you couple that kind of internal culture with a commitment that I sincerely believe all of our folks have of doing their very best for the clients and communities that they're serving, that it's just a powerful idea. Like how do we support people in doing their best for their clients and communities? That's what we ask internally. And then if actually the work that is happening is that person's best effort, I mean, you really get a lot of pretty amazing work done.
So you have a community inside Columinate. You try to make sure that folks inside Columinate, those consultants and staff, are treated with respect and dignity. and that every client that those consultants work with, that those clients are treated with dignity and respect. And then those customers of those clients are treated with dignity and respect. So you're pushing out, reaching more and more communities and making sure that people are treated with respect and dignity.
Yeah, and then if you add on top of that something that's been in our organizational DNA since the very beginning in the early 1990s, that people in our group are always looking forward to what is that thing that we could develop and bring forward that would be especially helpful for our clients and communities that we're interested in serving. So there's an ongoing development process within our organization, and that might relate to an area that we're already working in. Let's say in community grocery, there's a lot of innovation happening right now in that space. And it also might relate to starting something new, like common good management services, where we said, oh, here's a need that maybe we are uniquely set up to meet. Let's study that and see what can come of it.
Okay. So in 2019, you started looking at that. So here's the need, common good or property management or whatever you want to call it. And Columinate to see if you can bring dignity and respect to the people in those mobile home parks that are created by Rock USA. We're going to take our next break, and when we come back, I want to talk more about common good and how common good helps to bring out the property management and treat people with dignity and respect. We'll be right back. Please don't touch that dial.
News Talk 1450 WOL-AM, where information is power.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Vernon Oakes, and the program is Everything Cooperative. We have Mr. Mark Goehring and Alejandra Chavez on with us this morning. Mark, you had mentioned that in this mobile home park that it's investor-owned marketplace. What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm sure mobile home park communities didn't start out as being owned by massive equity groups, but that is how they have evolved. I don't have the data specifically, but there are many mobile home parks that are owned by equity groups that have very little connection to the people who are living in them, and so the Rock USA initiative that started 15 or so years ago really identified that as an opportunity for co-op development and to essentially extract out mobile home parks from the investor marketplace to a community ownership model. And I think there are about 300 or so of those examples across the country. We're very focused on Colorado right now because there are really powerful state laws and capital has been aggregated to really be ready to move as many of the 900 mobile home parks out of the investor economy into community-owned economy. And that's where Common Good Management Services set up to provide the property management to residents and the owner groups after they've been converted from investor-owned to community-owned.
So, Mark, do you have any sense of the demographics of people who live in mobile home parks? I mean, some percentage of the GNP, what people make, or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It does tend to be lower, under the median income, and there are benchmarks for 80% under, 50% under, 30% under. And I think, it's really is a diverse, it would be, unfair to too narrowly, describe it because there are, lots of different kinds of mobile home parks. But in Colorado, for example, where there's a huge affordable housing, problem, mobile home parks are largely workforce housing, and oftentimes second-generation immigrant workers and residents. And there's something also just about the mobile home park community where there's a level of vulnerability to mobile home park residents, because it's a very I think it's a poorly named thing, because mobile homes are actually not mobile. And so if you own one, you're vulnerable to what's going on with with at the owner level, and what's happening with the mobile home park. So, and Alejandra will have much more to say about all of that good stuff.
So, Alejandra, what is it like living in a mobile home park?
Well, when I moved from Mexico, it was really weird because, when I was in a home with my parents, they will say, "Oh, we live in a trailer." And I would imagine like, okay, one of those big box trailers. So how do you guys live in it? Until we came here. And I mean, it was shocking, but I liked it. I never imagined that, trailers, mobile home existed. So, living in a mobile home, it's not, it's not a shame. I can tell you this, when I was a 14-year-old, I used to attend to, I went to middle school and I was playing basketball. I'm shorter, but I play basketball. I play basketball, and one of my teammates, both my mom and my dad were working, so we didn't have right to go back home. One of my teammates offered to give me a ride, and so she brought me home. And when she saw my home, she said, "Oh, you live in a mobile home?" And I said, "Yes, yes. Why not?"
Yeah.
But they're not used to see a mobile home, so they have their own nice, beautiful house. And so when she saw, that I live in a mobile home, how she treated me after was differently. So she thought I was, I'm poor. I am poor. I was, my parents worked two jobs, and they did the best that they could, to provide us with a roof and a plate of food, and a table. So, I mean, we were happy. But I can tell you back then, it was a different treatment, how people were treating you after knowing that you live in a mobile home. But now that I grew up and I got to know more, I'm proud of living in a mobile home. I am actually living in a mobile home right now. So, and I grew up in a mobile home. My daughter, I'm raising my daughter, and she's growing in a mobile home. So, there's no shame to be in a mobile home. I think it's, one of the best things that I ever experienced. And, it's my palace. So.
Okay. Okay. The lady's home is her palace. Fantastic.
Palace, yes.
So do you find, particularly when your classmates started treating you differently, that now that you are a community rep, do you find when you treat the members of mobile home parks with dignity and respect that people really like that they cherish being treated with respect and dignity?
Yes, they love it, especially now that I'm bilingual. I got to know more of the residents. I know them for a long time ago, and I think we have built a great relationship. I had one question asked that they said, "So Alejandra, what is your job?" And I said, "Well, I'm a community rep, and I'm also a psychologist." Because there's people, because we have residents that they come to you and they tell you their personal problems. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a certified psychologist or any of that, but you give them an advice. But I feel really great of building that relationship and knowing that the resident is trusting you, with serious things, with their personal things.
Okay.
So I feel that, yeah.
Okay. So what does it look like in a day of a community service rep? What do you do for your mobile home parks? And you manage more than one, don't you?
Correct. Yes, I manage three mobile home parks, and it varies. I actually three, 4 months ago, I helped about 36 residents with their gas bill because the gas went up here in Colorado. So there were a lot of struggles and, gas. So people were behind on their gas. So I got with them and we fill up 36 gas assistance for them. I help them translate. I provide them with great resources for rental assistance. I sit down with them. I mean, some of them, they don't have, they're not good in technology. They don't have Wi-Fi. They don't have a computer. So they come to me and I help them. So I'm not just there to, to say, hey, you're behind your rent. If you don't pay, you're going to get evicted. I provide them resources. And if, they don't speak the language, then I'm there for them. I translate for them. We both work together to, fill up the application or follow up after the application. So I'm happy where I'm at. I'm really happy that I'm able to help residents and not just, there to make, for them to follow the rules or collect rent or any of that stuff.
So what is it like when a mobile home park? I have it that it snows a lot in Colorado. Okay. So when you have these big blizzards and stuff, what is it like living in a mobile home park, and how can you support the residents when you have all of the snow?
Well, during winter time, like especially for last year, we had a lot of snow. So, I mean, we had few residents who couldn't pay their rents, and so because of the snow, I mean, I have a snow guy removal contract that they will come, and for the elderly, I have maintenance guys, so they will come and help them shovel the driveway, or if a neighbor will get stuck at the driveway, they will come and push them out of the car. So it's a community. I think we have built a community to help each other. So I'm very thankful that we have come to that point because, before it was different. The management didn't care about residents. They didn't care about if you're stuck or if you have a leak or if you have any of that stuff,
And actually, Vernon, it's such a easy to get example of the snow in another mobile home park, one that we don't manage. It's owned by a regional housing authority in Colorado. They purchased the property in December and it snowed in January, and they had the street plowed. And they got a call and said, "Wow, that's amazing! No one has ever plowed the street before."
Wow!
And that's again, I'm sure there's a whole continuum of how the kind of investor-owned mobile home park works for their residents. But there is certainly a category where disinvestment is the key, and the infrastructure of mobile home parks super fragile. When you asked Alejandra about the daily routine, one question is, well, do you want to hear about a day when there was a water or a sewer leak, or when there wasn't one? Because it's just very fragile systems. So there's a lot of rapid response that our team does to manage the emergency situations.
Fantastic. Mark, when you have these major problems that come on, how do you support how does staff support the Alejandras?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's interesting because, we're still small. We have about 10 people, have about 10 clients, and so whenever we have a new client, a new staff member, it's, a lot feels new, but actually as a community-oriented team, we have a lot of experience. We've done FEMA level emergencies. We've had deaths and fires and crime and trees, and I think maybe we've experienced 80% of what can happen as a group. And so from the beginning, we've really cultivated a strong team culture of support. So someone in our group knows a best way to move ahead, and we have a kind of a high touch team culture that ensures, I think, that each person feels connected to that group knowledge. right? Alejandra, would you concur? Has that been your experience?
Yes, no, it's true. And also, we have a weekly meeting with our staff. So it's really amazing because if something comes up, then you have a question you can ask, you can text anybody, and you will have an answer right away.
Fantastic. So, Mark, I want to talk to you more about the future. What do you see happening in the future of both Common Good and Columinate? But I'm not exactly sure we can do it this segment. We may want to wait to the next segment, but I'm quite interested in lighting the path forward. Light the path forward together.
Nice. Yeah.
And so it's like, how do we put a light on the path? And see, I grew up in Bluefield, West Virginia. Those paths were dark, okay, at night. And how do you light the path forward together so we can move together down the path for the good of everybody?
Yeah. I be happy to talk about that. You want me to jump in right now?
No, we're going to go to break, and as soon as we get back from break, we've talked about Columinate and we've talked about Common Good, so we've got a good sense of what that is. But I really want to talk more about the future in this last segment.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
News Talk 1450 WOL AM, where information is power.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Vernon Oakes, and the program is Everything Cooperative. You know, Mark, we've been on this show for almost 10 years. This October will be 10 years. And the National Cooperative Bank has sponsored us all of those 10 years. NCB mission is to support and be an advocate for America's cooperatives and their members, especially in low-income communities, by providing innovative financial and related services. So, Mark, I really want to talk about the future. And have you all used NCB's financial services in the past, and do you potentially see using them in the future?
Oh, fun. We love National Co-op Bank. Yeah, they're great. And so funny. I didn't know we were going to do an infomercial for my friends at NCB, but happy to. Cooperative banking just makes total sense, right? So I was actually on a call this week with a land trust that had their money in the Silicon Valley Bank, and I was like, "What?
Wow.
That makes sense." You know, let me introduce you to my friends at National Co-op Bank. But you know, when I think about the future, Vernon, it's I think that if we look at why there are periods in history of co-op renaissance, where movements emerge and transformational change takes place. Like, what is it that exists when we experience that kind of change, right? And we can look back in history and see examples. My instinct is that we're in one of those periods where there are so many problems in society that can be solved by people working together through a spirit of service, and to bring investment into communities in ways that is the opposite of the pattern of disinvestment in the past, right? So, like, I think there's this context that Columinate and Common Good exist in that is really sets us up so well, because in our DNA, we're like looking at what are the tools and resources that we can bring forward, and a group of people really focused on being helpful. How can we be helpful? And there's so much need that being helpful is actually just well, let's figure out what's the service and resource that we can develop to bring forward that's a match that will help a community group make life better for people in their community. I mean, and so you could spread that across many different categories. In the community food area, for example, We have Jeannie Wells with the Mighty Community Markets program. We have a management on contract program, a lot of talent and empowerment emphasis and well-being. I mean, in grocery retail sector, people have been through so much hard times in the last few years that just helping people know how to do their jobs better and to take care of themselves is a huge thing, right? In the common good space, wow, it feels like 15 years into the Rock USA-led movement, we're still just at the beginning of something huge. There's 46,000 mobile home parks in the U.S. There's 950 of them in Colorado. They're not being well served in the investor marketplace. So what are the things that could happen to get them out of the investor-owned marketplace and get them into community ownership, and then start investing in that one piece of housing inventory to help those people actually, have better housing. And so in Common Good, we're really laser focused on Colorado because there's so much interesting resources gathering, lots of organizations, powerful state laws, good capital aggregation. And Alejandra, you're a leader in the kind of job creation that we're interested in creating, like amazing talented people who never thought of themselves as property managers, and yet, wow, you're doing it 1 year in. And when I think of just Colorado and Common Good, I did a survey of affordable housing professionals a couple months ago, and they predicted, let's get 200 mobile home parks in Colorado out of the investor economy into community ownership. And, I would just say, well, we're fully committed to doing everything we can do to make that happen.
And 200 of them would be 20% of the market. So,
yeah, it's just not, it's still, yeah. And
the market in Colorado.
And there's so much need. Oh my gosh. So Alejandra, when you think about the future, what comes up for you? And don't talk about a food truck.
No, of course we want to grow. I mean, I want to be able to help, other parks. I mean, I hope we can send to more. Our Common Good Management, it's a very successful team. Like I said, we're here to support each other, and so we want to grow, of course. And I think we all in the same circle, because we know what we want, and we all in the same process of helping residents. Of we're not just gonna do our job as a property manager. No, we're just there to help residents, and so we want to do the best that we could and look forward to grow. Of course, I want more parts of So
Alejandra, do you have your ear to the ground where you can hear when another property is up for sale, when another mobile home park is up for sale, that you might be able to tell, I don't know, Mark or folks in Rock USA that try to get those out of the investor pool so that people can own their own properties and have dignity and respect?
Yes, Vernon. I've been involved with other communities around Colorado. They have invited me to come and, tell them my experience and how we successful, by the park, and how, we protect the park from, those investors. So, of course, my voice is always up there, to let residents know that they can fight for their park. They have to stay united as a community and help each other and, raise their voices, of course, because if, they never said anything, of course, no one will know what's going on.
Okay. And Mark, what do you see future for Columinate?
That's why I was just going to chime in. Our model is incredibly resilient, and it grows and shifts based on two things: community need and who is in our group and what their interest is in being helpful. And we need to be able to make a market match where there's an economy. We only get paid if we're doing something valuable and someone hires us to do that work on their behalf. Mm-hmm. But really, when we think about being catalyst for common good, it really isn't narrowly cast. We double down in the areas that we're already invested in doing good work, but we're actually open to, the type of community empowerment and support that is needed to create this, get as much lift out of this particular stage of potential transformational change that perhaps we're finding ourselves in.
Okay, so if somebody's out there, they could be in the food co-op world or any other co-op world, and they wanted to see if Mark Goehring and Columinate to help them, how would they go about finding you? What would they do?
Yep. Our website is Columinate, which is two words. If you think of it as a two, no hyphen, but C-O, and then Luminate. So Columinate.coop. That's all our stuff's there. Common Good Management Services, Common Good Management.coop is all there. And those are that'd be the easiest place for someone to find out more about us.
commongoodmanagement.coop.
Yes. It's a pretty long website address, but we got to live with it.
And Columinate.coop.
That's
Columinate.
right.
We illuminate the path forward.
Yeah, light the path forward together.
Okay. So, Mark or Alejandra, we have about a minute and a half left. What message would you like to leave people with?
Alejandra, go for it.
Oh my gosh, well, to believe in us, to believe the common good management does a great job, and the most interest for common good is our residents. So, yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. I would inspire everyone to go do good today. Lift up respect and dignity for everyone that you touch.
Okay.
And Vernon, thank you for having us on the show.
Yes, thank you.
How would I, Mark, lift up dignity and respect to the male person that goes by? How do you do that?
How are you today, authentically? Thank you for delivering my mail today. Wave, friendly gesture. I'm grateful for your service.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And I already do that.
Perfect.
I wanted some examples. That's perfect. I want to thank you guys so very much for being on today, Alejandra and Mark. Thank you so much for being on and sharing with us Columinate and Common Good. Everybody out there, we'll see you next Thursday. Please live cooperatively and lift people up with dignity and respect.
Thanks.